This sucks. Your base's mobility shouldn't be stuck in 2020. I have spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours building. Here's everything I have learned about mobility and especially how to replace those nasty ladder hatches. Step 0. Stop using ladder hatches. You should almost never use ladder hatches. Hold on. I know you like them, but don't leave angry comment yet, and let me explain. Ladder hatches are very weak and prone to getting blown in a raid, leaving you with no mobility. They are also very easy for raiders or door campers to hold, and trying to peek one almost guarantees instant death due to the fact that players cannot shoot while on ladders. Hatches also severely limit what you can see above them, giving enemies plenty of spaces to hide while holding you. However, ladder hatches aren't completely useless, and I'll touch on that later. But first, let's go over some mobility basics. Step 1. Mobility modules. First of all, mobility needs to be organized. I often see people having one jump up there and another there. While this can work for solo bases, it just doesn't do the job for any other base. You can organize your mobility with mobility modules. There are modules that provide mobility vertically or horizontally in the form of a chute or a ring. I like to think that together they form a web of mobility. Mobility modules are important for a multitude of reasons. Most importantly, they allow you to safely access all parts of your base without having to enter your main core, which is extremely important during a raid. If this sounds intimidating, don't worry, there are already mobility modules for basically every footprint. Here are a couple examples which you can also find from this Builder Sanctuary save. Step 1.1. Mobility chutes. A great way to get your mobility organized is with mobility chutes. Mobility chutes are modules that allow easy and quick access to all parts of a base in one seamless jump-up sequence and are must-have in nearly every base. It's good to have multiple separated mobility chutes in your base so that you can't lose every mobility chute in a raid. Good way to separate them is to have them in the same module with the entrance. Building your mobility off of your entrances also improves overall quality of life since you don't have to run across the base to get up. The amount of mobility chutes vary with different group sizes and footprints. A general rule of thumb is to have as many mobility chutes as there are symmetrical sides of your base. For instance, a 3-sided egg base needs up to 3 chutes. A medium group circle base with 6 symmetrical sides works with 6 chutes. Exceptions exist as in small solo bases without shooting floors where these chutes aren't necessary. Yet slightly larger bases for duos or trios need at least 2 chutes. And even if a large group base is symmetrical by 3 sides, it needs more than 3 chutes. Step 1.2. Rings. A second way to get your mobility organized is with rings. Rings are like mobility chutes but horizontally. They go around the middle or the core of the base, allowing you to move around your base without getting caught up in a raid. Like mobility chutes, rings can have retakes, peaks and connections around the base. Rings that have multiple peaks back to base are called pancake rings. However, in this video I will not be talking about pancake rings, but rather rings in general. It's important to note that Stevie's pancake layer and pancake ring are separate concepts, but more about that in a different video. So, rings can be placed in 3 different categories placement-wise. Along the edges of the base, on the inner foundations around the middle, and on the outside of the base. Rings along the edges of the base are usually the best spot for rings, since those are furthest away from the core and have roof on top of them. In my opinion, it's these rings or the rings outside that make the base a pancake base. My favorite rings of this category are bed rings, purely because of how effective they are. They give you access to every mobility chute with a bunch of respawns. Usually bed rings don't even get a hit in a raid, and even if they do get hit, you can just close the garage doors. Rings located on the inner foundations of the base are a bit more vulnerable since these rings are closer to the core and in the middle of the raid path. The most familiar example of this type of ring is a ring of the inner peaks, whether it's the ring on the ground level or the ring on the top where the peak downs are located. And finally, rings located outside are usually open on the top, but even further away from the core than rings along the edges. The best example of this type of ring is a pancake wall. It combines defense and mobility perfectly while being away from the action. Step 1.3, a web of mobility. Connecting these rings together with mobility chutes is crucial. So a good rule of thumb to follow here is that if you have a ring, you should also have mobility chutes connected to that. This is especially important if you have multiple rings in your base. They need to be connected together just like your large group base needs to have rings. Rings are the most neglected part of mobility, and that is understandable in smaller bases. But if you are a clan builder, listen to me carefully. Your clan is literally losing raid defenses because you don't have rings in your base. They provide so much value for the cost, so it should be no-brainer to have rings. With rings, you can change peaks quicker, access retakes fast, get to action from bedrooms in no time and also seal the base. Oh, and have you ever found yourself running to the wrong side of the base? With rings you can also easily switch sides without backtracking or taking a longer route. Step 2. Maintaining control. In order for these rings to give advantage to you over the raider, you need to keep them in your control. That control is easy to lose, but hard to get back. That's why you need retakes. The mobility chute offers the most efficient retakes due to its advantages. It provides excellent mobility for reaching the retake and the target spot. Additionally, you can inspect the floor before opening a door to protect the mobility chute. This option is cost-effective and simple to build. In contrast, alternatives like retake pods lack these benefits. However, you can also utilize other mobility modules such as rings for retakes, since you can't always have retakes in your mobility chutes. Either way, you need to get back to the retakes after you have died. Step 2.1, getting back to action. Here's where the bedrooms come into play. They need to be connected to your mobility modules, whether it's rings or chutes. Either way, having the bedrooms as close to the retakes as possible is crucial. A smart move here is to combine retakes, bedrooms and mobility chute all within the same module. By having all these things in one module, you gain the ability to regain control of your base fast. Not only does it make regaining control better, it also makes quality of life better, especially if your core is connected to that module. Step 3. Mobility between base and compound. Once your shooting floor is clear from raiders, it's good to be able to also get the control of it from the compound. A simple way to do this is by creating a fast chute that goes from a compound or wide gap China wall all the way up to your shooting floor. Just make a simple triangle chute with 1 or 2 ladder hatches. Even though I said not to use them, in this case it's okay to use them. They help you get up and down the chute quickly. If you then don't want to use this kind of a chute and you only want to get down from the base, this can be done with a few simple roofs. Place the roof a couple floors below your roof or shooting floor, have some gap or a door on the top of that, and you get yourself a quick drop down to the compound. However, it's important to avoid having a way back up, since this also allows raiders and grubs to get access to your base. Another way to quickly access your shooting floor is by mobility module within a compound outpost. Here's an example from Dragon's base. While you might have mobility to your base through a compound outpost, don't forget the importance of having a faster access door from the gates. Step 3.1, Compound mobility. As a general rule of thumb, compound should be pretty easy to move around without needing extra deployables to help you. This is because on a real server the terrain may vary and makes moving around harder. Variable terrain will also make placing some deployables impossible. Open bunkers can also make moving around harder if you don't have enough space to go around it. Hence that needs to be kept in mind while building compound bunkers so the mobility stays smooth. Step 4. Redundant mobility. Now, even after ranting the whole video about mobility and how you could have more of it, I need to tell you about redundant mobility. See, there can be too much of mobility, just as there can be too much of anything. So you need to make sure that your solo base doesn't have 6 mobility chutes and 3 rings just because I said they were good. The key here is balancing. How much mobility can you have without sacrificing other things? Another question would be, how can I add more mobility with minimum amount of sacrifices? And no, the ladder hatch can't be answer to that. Now you have the knowledge to avoid those nasty ladder hatches and make your mobility shine. However, there are some problems that I haven't spoken about in this video, and if you manage to solve these problems, they will take you from mediocre builder to a great builder. So to learn about the 3 of the most common problems that builders have, watch this video next.